And I came from a broken home. My parents got divorced early, and I was welcomed into her family with loving arms and very nice people, decent people. Live in very nice homes over there, and immaculate, clean. A lot of them are, higher education, have served in the military, just great people. And it's a great island to visit, just like any place. There's bad areas and there's good and the bad, but I've had nothing but good experiences there. So we pray for the families that are dealing with the loss of their loved ones. That's very, very, very sad. There is an update to Hurricane Irma as we speak, as it's barreling towards Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas. Hurricane Irma shifted east, but remained on a path today, which could have dire impacts, they're still saying, on Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. So, it's one of the most powerful Atlantic storms ever recorded. They say it's weakened somewhat after tearing through the Caribbean, but it's still a Category 5, folks. It's still a Cat 5, so we're definitely monitoring this thing. Rick Scott, our governor, says this thing is bigger than our entire state. This thing is bigger than our entire state. It's that big, folks. Florida Governor Rick Scott warned during a press conference today, take this thing seriously. Scott also put a call out for an additional 17,000 volunteers to help before and during and after the storm. Residents who want to answer the call are asked to go to Volunteer Florida online. And in Miami-Dade County, Mayor Carlos Gibnez ordered the evacuation of more than 100,000 people in beach communities in flood-prone areas. That's effective today. The storm doesn't appear to be going anywhere, and he's telling people, get out. Tampa residents, desperate search for supplies that might help them survive. Not a very, very good scene here. A lot of stores are just empty. People are scurrying for water, waited in long lines for bottled water, gasoline, plywood as businesses just simply ran out. Motorists lined Sheldon Road near the Oaks Fire Station for more than a mile for the opportunity to fill sandbags. And by the way, in the county that I live, and I do the radio show out of, Hillsborough County, right down from Fox 13, they're out of sandbags. They're just simply out of sandbags. Tens of thousands an hour given away. They ran out of supplies. They don't have any more. And usually that never happens. I've never, in the whole time that I got to tell you, I have never seen it this bad. And I've been through, the 04 deal, with a hurricane back to back to back. Remember that season? Never like this. And I've lived in Tampa since 2001. So a little over 15 years? Never seen it like this. Not at all. With the lines and every gas station they drove past this morning, bags on the tanks. Where they handle where it just tells you there's no gas there. And it's a pretty telltale sign when you look and there's no cars. There's no gas. That's when you actually want a diesel. It's the diesel tanks that are good. Some people have diesel generators. You can smell that. You ever smell the diesel? Got that funky smell to it. Yeah, but those things will go on, and that's good if you got a generator like that. And I have one. Family has a generator, and so we can plug into that. So we're good and ready, but we have multiple contingency plans in Tampa and outside of Tampa. Which is good, and because you have to look at the flood areas. If you're in a flood-prone area, you have to get out. Now, where our residence is, it's flood-prone, so most likely I'm not camping out there. So I'm going to go to a higher level, much higher level. That it just we're probably going to see some street flooding, but it's not going to flood out. So that's we got family there. We're going to be staying with my brother-in-law, so I'll be hanging out there. So, yeah, he'd be happy to see us. We'll bring the dogs. I got a Chihuahua and a Shih Tzu, and we'll just eat soup, and we'll listen to the coverage, and we'll see what happens. And we'll be praying that this thing doesn't Doesn't kill anybody, because it already has, folks. And that's the saddest thing about these storms, is that you can be so ready and a tree comes crashing through your house, and that's a scary thing because the ground is already wet in many places here in Florida, in the Carolinas, in Georgia. You got to be careful about those trees. And if you think that you got something that I wouldn't be in that house. You think that tree is going to come down? It happens all the time during storms, unfortunately. Pulling out of a driveway and everything seems to be great, and boom, somebody gets killed. It's the craziest stuff. So, folks, by the way, top seller, according to Pamela Strangoli, a department supervisor at Home Depot near Westchase, says grills have been a top seller as customers seek other methods to cook meals. Interesting enough, this is true. This is a true story. I'm not going to tell you. This is not fake news here. It's not CNN, okay, or MSNBC. So my daughter, Kimberly, she had a, what are they called when you're getting clothes and stuff like that? A baby shower. There you go. Was it the last thing was a birthday. We went to the baby shower. That was the birthday. It was for Alicia's first birthday. So anyway, that's what it was. We were at Ballast Point Park, beautiful park in Tampa off Bayshore Boulevard. And she rented one of those gazebos. And it was a rain out kind of a deal. And so the grill was kind of out in the elements. So I went to Lowe's on Gandy Boulevard, bought a grill, and had it put together. And I still have this thing in my trunk rattling around, but it's big enough where, it's on wheels. It's collapsible, where you can, cook a lot of stuff on it. And so that's on standby. So I have that. May have to buy some more charcoal. Maybe that's going to be an interesting thing to be able to locate. More charcoal. I'll have to kind of look around to see what I can find. But if that's a top seller, I don't know. BP gas station on Sheldon Road ran out of gas already. Bright red bags covering the pump's handles. 40 vehicles lined the street Wednesday morning. This was yesterday, and police were called to keep things orderly. He said he hoped to get another gas shipment Wednesday night. Still waiting on gas there. Stores ran out of bottled water on Tuesday. One said, I bought 100 cases of gallon jugs and sold out in less than 1 hour, according to one store owner. But, man, it's still an issue. And that's why preparation is so handy. And some of you are really smart that you always have canned goods, non-perishables. And the other thing, you can drink more than water. I heard one lady at Walgreens, and it just kind of made me laugh. She says, why are people so upset about water? There's plenty of white wine left in the aisle. And some of you might be having a nice drink during the hurricane. That doesn't sound like a bad idea. Yeah, you can drink other things. There's Capri Suns. You can drink some juice, have a beer. Yeah, there's other things. Sure. Here's another story for you. We're going to kind of make a shift here. And this has to do with our naval ships here, because remember all the accidents we've had and the sailors that have lost their lives. Remember the Fitzgerald? Well, the majority of ships operating in the U.S. Navy 7th Fleet, where the 2 destroyers have been involved in fatal collisions since June, weren't certified. They weren't certified to conduct basic operations at sea, says one report. They weren't certified. They were not certified to conduct basic operations at sea related to war fighting, according to U.S. Navy records. As of late June, 8 of the 11 cruisers and destroyers of the 7th Fleet and their crew members weren't certified by the U.S. Navy to conduct mobility seamanship or basic steering of the ship, according to the U.S. Navy records provided by 2 House Armed Services committees. I can't tell you how boiling my blood is for these sailors that lost their lives because of lack of training. It just makes me sad. There's a lot of egg that'll be on faces, but blood literally on whose hands? Now, there was this, what were they, squeeze the money out where they didn't have enough money to run our military. That's right. During Obama's tenure, where he was depleting the military, wasn't funding the military adequately, I blame Barack Hussein Obama for this. They asked for more money. They didn't get it. Sequestered. Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. Remember all that? A couple years ago? Direct ramifications for all of this. The USS Fitzgerald collided with the Philippine flag vessel on June 17th, which killed 7 crew members. The USS John McCain collided with the Libyan flag vessel August 21st, killing 10 sailors. Neither the Fitzgerald nor the McCain were certified once again for the majority of the mission operations required, according to the Navy. And they periodically evaluate it, but for whatever reason, they allowed them out to sea. The 7th Fleet's destroyers and cruisers generally meet the certifications in other areas such as maintenance, communications, navigation, explosive safety, and search and rescue. It's unclear what role the lack of proper certification played in the collision, and Pentagon investigators are underway both into the collision and into larger questions of naval operations. But the certification report suggests, according to one expert, that the U.S. Navy may have knowingly sent ships to sea that weren't fully certified for the missions that they were conducting, said Brian Clark, who is a senior fellow at the Washington-based Center for Strategic Assessments. So that appears to be an endemic of systematic problems, Mr. Clark said. The 7th Fleet destroyers and cruisers may not have had sufficient practice to do the difficult transits that we're doing, given the crowded waters that they're operating in. Again, this is just common sense. I'm just kind of thinking to myself, you're on this ship. Nobody was out looking. Not one person was, I know there's people asleep, but nobody was looking at anything. Nobody saw anything coming. I mean, everybody, were they playing cards? Were they all sleeping? What do they mean that they don't know how to navigate the ship? I mean, they collided with these giant ships. I mean, who was asleep at the helm? I mean, isn't there more? There was more than one person aboard. I mean, they fire the admiral. But, ultimately the buck stops there with him. But, geez, shouldn't more people be fired? I mean, seriously. I mean, I worked aboard a 136-foot schooner, which was a beautiful schooner. It had 2 Detroit diesels on it, but it was a sail training vessel. But we had the diesels on there in case of rough weather we need to get out of, and there was some. But, we had port and starboard watch is what we would call it. And we would rotate shifts, and sometimes it would get rough out there, so you'd harness yourself in and all that stuff, but you'd learn every single aspect of running that ship, and one of them was the helm, and you were constantly on the lookout for vessels and buoys. You'd count how many points off the starboard bow or the port side. I mean, I learned a lot about a navigation. See, I've not been in the Navy. I almost actually went into the Navy after that. True story. And I was kind of a little let down because I was thinking, well, if I was going to go into the Navy, I kind of wanted, and I know this is selfish, but I wanted some guarantee that I would be able to broadcast on radio, on Armed Forces Radio, and do a show. But they said there's no guarantees of what happens. And I just kind of knew that I was cut out for this. So I didn't, and I've served in so many other ways, and just because not necessarily that you join the armed forces, there's so many other ways that you can serve your community and do a great job. But I am very I admire, I guess I should say, people that are